Good afternoon. I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards over on Twitter or at Risk for Rewards if you're looking to find me. Currently got around 14,000 followers over there. And if you're looking for any of the bets I've had in the last 12 months or just some content that I've provided or anything to do with the Cheltenham Festival, you can find my Cheltenham Antepost blog pinned to my profile over there. Of course, we're over here on YouTube. I've got just coming up to 1,000 subscribers, and the content's about to get busy in the next 7 days. So if you haven't already subscribed, if you want to subscribe below, because the videos will be coming out and you'll get that notification straight away as soon as they do. Any likes are appreciated. We're obviously around 50 likes a video at the moment, and plenty of comments. So I read every comment, and I try to reply to every comment. Well, I do reply to every comment. So all feedback is welcome. And yeah, no, we're all enjoying it. So today's video is going to be a little bit of a summary. So if you haven't seen any of the other videos, we've done 4 videos of the rough guideline to each day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of my selections, thoughts and processes of who I think might win. We've done a bankers and blowouts, which so far is absolutely flying and has had more, well, almost as many as views as the Tuesday of the Cheltenham Festival, and it's only been up 48 hours. But I do think that's a brilliant video. That covers the 9 short price favourites, whether I back them now and if they're a banker or a blowout currently. And of course, we're here. And today's video is going to be me explaining the Cheltenham 2023 blog and a little bit about why we have the Cheltenham 2023 blog. The main consensus was a few people were asking me questions about why do I do this? Why do I put all this free content? Why do I take the time and all of this sort of thing? And how has it come about? Why is it all there? So to put it quite simply, when I came to horse racing many years ago, I know everyone thinks that I'm about a 12-year-old, but I have been in racing, I'm not going to say how many years, but I've been on over 10 years to say that. So I have seen a fair bit of racing, but when I first came there was obviously part of it comes with technology and the evolution of things like Twitter. But at the time, there wasn't a lot where I could go there and I could find out and understand anything to do with racing other than reading a race card. Picking winners and things like that. And I went to the Cheltenham Festival and I thought it was brilliant, had great time, won some money, loved it. But I was seeing all these things on Twitter, people like, oh, I've had this price at Antepost. And I was backing these horses and they might win it like 2-1. And I was seeing people with slips at like 33-1. I was like, well, this is interesting, but I don't understand how people are doing it. So you begin following them. But a lot of people will say they've won those things, but they won't share them with you, or they will share them with you, but they'll share them with you after the price is already gone. So it just made it like hard for me to understand, and then it made me intrigued to think, okay, right. So if everyone else is doing this, there must be ways of doing it, and knowing how a trainer is going to where a trainer will put their horse if they win race A. So this began setting me off, and then before I know it, I was looking for Antepost, and now I've become obviously very, very die-hard, passionate follower of the Antepost, the Cheltenham Festival. And anyone who knows now, I just focus on the big festivals each year. So Cheltenham, Aintree, and Punchestown. But we also focus on the big areas as well, such as like the King George. Like we had Brave Man's Game at 6-1 this year, and the big weekend racing, so like things like the Betfair Chase. And then on the flat, focus on Royal Ascot, 2,000, 1,000 guineas, the Oaks and the Derby. And this year's been very kind, to be fair. About blowing my own trumpet, we had Caribus 16-1 for the 2,000 guineas. Didn't have the 1,000 guineas winner. We did have, but I cannot think who it was off the top of my head. Beat Emily Upjohn, but that was at 10-1 as well. It was the Aidan O'Brien horse. And then the Derby winner, Desert Crown, at 10-1. So all very big prices, but I tend to just stay away from the majority of the racing and just focus on certain things. But the Cheltenham Festival is the be-all and end-all, in my opinion, and I think that you would like to hope that you can make enough profit through those 4 days that whether you have the best year punting or the worst year punting, those 4 days can help you out to float that bank up and down and maybe pay for a few holidays and beers along the way. So the reason I started the blog was back in 2021, we were obviously in COVID times. Well, in fact, we weren't in COVID times. We were about to come into COVID times. But I'd started to write things on Twitter, do a few blog posts and do bits and pieces here and there. And I did have a blog, but it wasn't showing an awful lot of my Antepost stuff. It was just showing bits and pieces. But off the back of the 2021 Cheltenham Festival, coming into the festival, I spoke to someone who worked at Welovebetting, and I asked about their columns, how things worked, and they asked me, was there any chance if I wanted to write for them for the Cheltenham week? and I thought, why not? Because it was a great chance to go and have a look, see what the deal was with it all, and to just have a go at writing and put my pen to paper to see if I actually knew what I was talking about or not. So I did very similar to the banks and blowout video. I actually wrote banks and blowouts, but I wrote them on daily columns. So each day I wrote a bank and a blowout, and throughout the week I got 5 out of 7 right. Um, the two that I got, the two that, and these aren't me. These obviously sometimes getting a banker right when they're odds on is fairly easy, but at the same time I did take on like I called blowout on Easy's Land and Kilcrook, who were both 10 to 11 odds on shots, and both of them got turned over. So it wasn't all plain sailing. But then I also did daily selections for them, of which I did seven selections across the week. I put up Galloping Deschamps. Obviously, this was back in the handicap days. At 8 to 1 was a winner. Tiger Roll was a winner. Quilixios 11 to 2 was a winner. Galvin at 7 to 2. National Hunt Chase was a winner. Saint Sam came second. Asaidu Burley came second. So of my 7 selections, and obviously as you can see, the shortest price one was 7 to 2. The majority were around 5 to 1. I had 4 winners and 3 places. So this really set my thought process alight for it, and I just got very hungry for this and thought, you can do this. This is something that you understand, and you know, you don't know the game, but you know, you like to think you know a little bit about what's going on. Um, so this began me making the blog, and the issue with the 2021 Cheltenham Festival was a lot of people were coming to me and they were like, oh yeah, well, that's brilliant, and I was almost a bit like one of those people that I'd been saying in the past where, yeah, okay, that's great that I had loads of winners, but I wasn't well known on Twitter, so people hadn't followed any of the anti-posts that I'd had in the last 12 months. So a lot of people said, okay, well, I'm going to follow you from then. My total for that year was I had 16 winners from 28 races, which is obviously over a 50% strike rate, which is brilliant. My only caveat to that, which I will say for every year, when people read my results and they're like, okay, that's outstanding, and then people like to tear it apart and look and say, oh, this and this. And that. I stand here because I'm not charging, I'm not doing anything with it. I'll stand here and I will say some races I will have one selection in. Like say, like I'm just looking at the results from 2021. Shishkin for the Arkle 5 to 1. Antepost, there it is in front of you. That was my only selection. It was only ever going to be one selection. But then other races, like say you're in a handicap, you might have 2 or 3 runners. So I may have like, as an example, for the handicap was Mrs. Milner at 25 to 1. So I had 2 selections in the race. So obviously, you've got the 25 to 1 winner, and providing you're backing both of them on win only, you've got 25 to 1. That returns, say you had £1 on it, returns £25. But my other selection, you'd also have £1 on it. So it'd be like plus 24. I don't sit here and work through all the points because I know whether I'm in profit or whether I'm in loss. And I wouldn't be standing there in front of you trying to help other people if I was losing continuously when I'm talking on the big stage. So at the end of the day, it was brilliant. And then this then kept me going. And I thought, okay, yeah, let's do the same again for the Cheltenham 2022 festival. The difference was this year is that I had a much bigger following and everyone followed from the start. So what I did was I started the Cheltenham Antepost blog probably, I don't know, maybe in March or April for the year before. And then I allowed people to be able to, every time that I post this selection, it will go on Twitter or it will go on the Cheltenham blog. And it allows people to make the decision if they agree with what I've wrote content-wise. Because I don't just write a name, because anyone can write a name and then people won't understand it. My point is that if I was on the other end of it, I want to be able to help the people that I didn't like I was looking for. So okay, he's put this up. Why has he put this up? Oh, he thinks that horse is going to win that race on Sunday. And if he does, the Cheltenham naturally next target would be this. Trainer's creature of habit always sends it to say the 2 mile 4 furlong. That's why we're going with that thing. So that was my general thinking, and so we ended up with a much bigger following through the Cheltenham Festival coming into the 2022. So again, the pressure was a little bit higher, but once again, we did very well. We had 15 winners from 28 races last year at 53% strike rate. And again, we've got a mixture of all sorts of prices. A lot of it, obviously, anti-post wise, people, that's where you make, in my opinion, it's where you make a lot of your money. But at the same time, people will be coming to this and they won't have any anti-post selections. And that's absolutely fine. In my opinion, if you take the blog, when the blog comes out on Sunday, if you look through the blog and the selections, you think, okay, I want to back that, I want to back that, and you go through. Generally, I'll be disappointed if, even if you're backing them at short prices than what they were anti-post, that you weren't still making some sort of profit. And that's not just following my selections, but following any of the content. So you can make your own decision on what you want to back. But like a prime example last year would have been State Man. So State Man, I put up at Antepost as soon as the handicap weights. I put him up at 8-1. And then on the Sunday night when I put the blog up, so when I put this up, he went up. I think he's about 11-2. I put him on the blog. If you'd backed him on the Sunday, obviously that's perfect. But if you waited all the way through, he ran on the Friday. So he was sent off 11-4 favourite on the Friday. So you're still making profit by backing that selection on the day. But if you'd backed him, obviously Antepost, you're making more profit. And even if you backed him on the Sunday, you'd have made a good profit. So my point is the fact that you don't have to have the Antepost. It just generally it helps because one, it helps shape your book. So don't let anyone turn around and say to you, you cannot have more than one selection in a race, because that's just absolute nonsense. So if you've backed, I don't know, like say a honeysuckle in one race, but then another horse comes along and you think that is clearly the only danger. If you can get both on side, but you're still making a good profit, then get both on side if that's what you want to do. Don't let someone say, oh, you can only pick one selection. Like this, that's just not true, especially when you're looking at handicaps of over 20 runners in the race. Some people back loads of each way, some people back loads of just win only. Like you can make so many ways to make a profit, and that's what it's all about. It's not about shooting for the stars in every race. Don't get me wrong, there will be somewhere you think, right, that is my only selection, and whether it's even money or it's 20-1, that is the only one, and I really fancy it, and you go for it. But at the same time, you might be like, do you know what, I really fancy these 4 selections, and I can't get away from any of them. And then suddenly, like you long and behold, that you could get a 1, 2, 3. You don't know, but it might be the one that you least fancy of the 4 that wins. So you just make sure you choose what you want to do. It's all about making profit. It's not about making everyone else by, oh, I got this winner, I got that winner, which is why I'm not too bothered about tracking and doing all those things, because I know whether I've got profit or loss. And if I've got profit and loss, there's a strong chance that people that have followed, they're going to have very similar. So anyway, I'm going to go through just quickly. Right, so this is the plan for this week. This week, first I give a big shout out to the lads over on Only Fools Love Horses. So at Only Fools Love Horses, on Thursday we have got a massive Cheltenham preview evening. And there's going to be some big names on the panel, and I will tell you, give me 2 seconds, and I'll tell you exactly who the names are, because as usual, I'm not prepared at all. Apologies. Right, so we have got Flynn Coward, Paul Callaghan from the Irish Field, Emma Nagel from Irish Racing TV, Johnny Deneen from Up in the Ante and the Racing Post, obviously myself, Pete, Risk Rewards, and all the cracking lads over on Only Fools Love Horses. So if you go over there on Thursday night, we've got a Cheltenham preview evening. So that will be Thursday's plans. Also, we will start getting 5-day decks coming through from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So from Thursday onwards, we'll get decks for Tuesday, and that'll be the 5-day declaration stages, or there'll be, I think they were called entries. So we'll get the 5-day phase. That'll be the fields beginning to condense down, and we'll start to get realistic numbers for stuff like the handicaps. So from then on, from Thursday onwards, I'm going to start putting my final selections up. As in, I will do a video for. On Thursday will be for the Tuesday of the Cheltenham Festival. On the Friday will be for the Wednesday of the Cheltenham Festival. And everything I've got that I can use to process the selections, I will put up. There may still be some gaps because I'm waiting for ground and stuff like that. But I can only fill in what I can do at the time. They will obviously all been done by the time the blog comes out. This is just for people who prefer to watch YouTube content, because obviously it's a much better way of grasping understanding of how strong someone is on something, or the way I'm explaining something. I can write something in a very monotone way through a load of stats and figures, and people are just like, well, he's not really bothered about that. Whereas if I said it, I could be like, oh, and the stats might really back it up very well. So it's just whichever you suit and prefers. But the Cheltenham blog will obviously have everything in it, whereas this is just going to be another edition. So anyway, let's have a little look through and go to, obviously normally I do free ball everything, but today I'm going to go through, because I'm actually looking through the Cheltenham blog to show people, to explain to people what it is we're going to have in here. So we're going to have a few like just pointers of how you might want to place your selections. So whether it's you're following festival form, course form, are they previous winners, checking on the ground, very basic things to for you to analyse yourself. Big thing is that obviously people know how passionate I am about this, is the whole TV judges thing. So the same with this week, the markets are moving. I've already put a tweet up today about prices are moving. The prices are moving because of the way certain people talk about certain horses. So like in Ireland, there's been a lot of talk over Lossiemouth. Paul Town are not running Lossiemouth to get off to ride Blood Destiny. That could well be the case. It might not be the case. People don't know definitely what Paul Townend's going to do, and will it really affect that horse? Lossiemouth doesn't look like a complicated horse, but that doesn't get incorporated into the market. People just either back off the back of that because he might be on it, and also the market will move because people are saying, oh well, he might not be on it. And also, you've just got to take everything with a pinch of salt. Like, there are going to be previews everywhere. People are going to be saying, oh, this horse can't get beat. This is a certainty. This handicap horse is well in. Just take a breather and think, okay, right, do I need to really back this horse right now? Like, there's a lot of horses that I could have put up right now for handicaps. They might be, say, I don't know, 10 to 12 to 1. And then you see someone else has put them up, and then they're 8 to 1 to 10 to 1. But you could go and back that same horse now 2 to 4 points shorter. But then after the 48-hour decks, these races aren't going to be non-competitive, or everything's going to balloon back out, and you could be looking at that horse could be back in double figures again, and then, or you might even get best odds guaranteed. It might end up 16 to 1 or something on the day. So it's just one of those things. Just take your time. These prices, if you were wanting to get all the prices, then you should have been doing it 2 to 4 weeks ago for the rest of the year. So it's just that now's not the time to be worrying and scraping and running around to chase everything, and just be wary of who you're listening to. Some people will tell you, oh, that's a brilliant each way value bet, that's a brilliant this, that's a brilliant that. Oh, okay, well, how much have you got on it? You're like, oh no, I haven't bet on it. And that's the point. That's my biggest thing. Anyone who follows me knows that I back everything that I say, and it kind of comes across that way when obviously I express things, and that's what makes me look so hard. I mean, would you really be looking as hard into every single minor detail? Like, I love football, and I wouldn't sit there and look into mega details, like sitting watching a football match and thinking, oh, I wonder how many passes this guy does. I wonder how... Whereas you look into those things because obviously it's your ways of making money and looking for winners in a race. So yeah, just a few more stats. Something I do want to touch on is obviously I'm not an advisor, but it's just from personal experience. A lot of these things aren't I'm a smart ass and I know best. It's because when I was learning, obviously I learned the hard way, just like many people. If anyone tells you out there they've not learned the hard way, then they're lying. But you've got to have a game plan next week. So this is why I like to get the blog out on Sunday, so people can have a breather, have a read of it, and then they can sort out what they're going to do Sunday, Monday, of how they're going to plan their week. You do not want to go absolutely nuts on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and then come the Thursday have no money when that could be the best day of the week. And vice versa, is that you don't want to go really slow on the Tuesday and the Wednesday and then ramp up, and like everyone seems to just go berserk on the Friday for Gold Cup Day. And in the past, that's been one of the toughest days on the calendar. So you just have to have a plan of what you're doing. For me, it's quite simple. Is that I like to look for what I call the 5 best. So I look for my 5 best horses of the week. So my 5 that I think biggest chances. And then with those 5 best horses, you look through and you say, right, okay, I want to back that horse, that horse, that horse, and that horse. And you make sure you've got what you want, as in you've got enough money to back those horses, you've got whatever price it is that you want, and you're laid out. And another thing is you're making sure that that money isn't anything that you need for day to day, like not your life. It's like your money for this weekend. It's like going on a weekend away to, like, I don't know, I'm off to Newcastle. Oh, I'm taking £200 for the weekend. That money is just gone. The emotional attachment of it is gone. It's not money that you need. You should never be betting. I know obviously it sounds very cynical, but yeah, it's just having a plan. It doesn't have to be like a rigid, let's do this, this, and this. It's just knowing, like, if you know that your better selections are on Thursday, then there's no reason for you to go steaming in on the Tuesday and going absolutely mental. You can still back them all and do whatever you like, but you just need to make sure that come the Thursday, you've got the money that you want for those selections. Multiples, as I always say, they're always going to be a good factor, but just make sure they're your smallest bets. So right, on to the actual blog itself. So Cheltenham 2023 blog. So the Cheltenham blog will have multiples. It will have very few multiples. Obviously, I've already put a few up. There'll probably be a multiple a day, a few for the week, and there'll just be small multiples, just interlinked, just for a bit of fun. You might get, I don't know, a £5 free bet each day, and that might be what the multiple is good for. So as we go down, there's then the blog's now split into 2. The first part will have all of my selections I've done Antepost. So it will say Cheltenham Tuesday, Champions Day, Antepost, and it'll be a list of, throughout all the races of the day, the horses that we've backed Antepost. obviously some people will be on all of these because they followed since last March, and they've agreed, and that's what they've wanted to back. Some people will be watching this video and reading the blog, and they won't have a single bet on so far. And that's where below there's going to be the Cheltenham Tuesday, Champions Day, fresh selections. So that is if I had no anti-post. So that means if you've got no bets on and you just turn up on the Tuesday morning, you look at the blog and you say, right, okay, I want to have a bet in these races. Let's have a look through. What's he fancied for that? That is if I've got no anti-post. So if I'm just coming, I've just picked up the race card. The reason for that is for that exact reason, is so that everyone can do it. And obviously, if you have bought back the anti-post, but you look on my fresh selections and I've got new selections on there, then obviously there's a strong chance that I'm going to have backed the fresh selection as well to add to what I already had anti-post. Obviously, it sounds a lot more complicated when I'm just reading it off the screen. When you have it in your hand, as in on digital, it's very easy to work out. Each race will be broken down into its own section. It has the distance, whether it's old course or new course, a little bit of a background on the race, a few statistics of trainers that do well. So like say Willie Mullins in the Supreme Novice or Nicky Henderson. What I've included this year is the 2022 anti-post results, 2022 anti-post horses I picked. So for last year's festival, which horses I had anti-post in it, the 2022 result, so of my anti-post horses, where did they fare, and the 2022 winner. So if I picked it, and obviously just who the winner was and what the SP prize was. The reason I've included this year is obviously, even though it's over a small base, it just means that people can have a look and be like, okay, right, he's put 3 horses up here. Like, but how did he do last year? Did he put 3 up last year and he still didn't get the winner? It just means that you can then have a bit of a background on whether maybe I've targeted that race and done well and done a 1, 2, 3, or whether I've put 3 and I've got none of those correctly. But something that I have done where it's took me a lot longer, is that this year I've changed the fact that I've covered a lot more horses. So like just flicking through the Supreme, I've currently got 3, 4. I've got five horses covered so far, as in I've wrote about 5 different horses, and I've also got an of the rest section, which will covers obviously a small amount of content on each horse that is not covered of those 5 that are covered in depth. The reason for this is because this blog is not for me to stand here and to tip you horses as if like I'm a world-class horse racing analyst and expert. This is so that in 2 different scenarios. A scenario, if you're sat at work and you've got an hour's lunch break and you love the Cheltenham Festival, you're going to sneakily be watching it behind your desk, but you don't have a lot of time. You can come to this and you can have a quick flick through. It's got the last 2 years worth of form in it. It's got, has the horse got festival form? Where's the horse been performing against? Who are the horses? Have they raced against other horses within the race? And just general information and stats that would take you ages to go through and to find, and all the information. Whereas I've condensed it all down into small bite-sized portions so you can read it through and then you can make your decision. Yeah, of course, my selection will be there, but at the same time, you might read everything that I've wrote and say, I enjoyed all of that content. I understand everything that he's put there, but I don't agree with what his selection is, and I want to go with this horse. And that's brilliant. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do what I couldn't have in the past, was I want to create content for people so that people they're not just looking on a board and going, like picking up a Sun newspaper and gone, Tommy Tipper over here's picked this horse with 1 sentence. You're reading through like a good para and you're looking, saying, right, with this content, I really fancy this horse now. And that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And that could be at work, or you could be sat on the train on the way to Cheltenham races, and you're sat there on your phone just flicking through, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, right, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, yeah, but that horse beat that. Like, I'm definitely backing that horse. That's why I like that horse. And it's just, to me, obviously, there is nothing like this Cheltenham blog out there. The Antepost blog, there's nothing like it out there. And there's nothing like this Cheltenham blog that I've began to produce. There is no other content like it. And it's just, you could go and read your Racing Post race cards. You can go on Sporting Life and go through all of that. And you have to know where to find things. And it takes you time to go through and to look through and look at this figure and look at the numbers and how did that do it? What was the weights when he beat him? Whereas this is quick, it's fast, and it's got all the information condensed into one. And that's all I'm trying to do, is to just try and help those that have little amount of time. It's not me saying I'm smarter than anyone else, not me saying I know more about racing than anyone else. It's just pure and simple because of the fact that people do not have as much time in their lives. And the irony is, this year is me of all people, I don't have enough time in my life whatsoever because of we're not in COVID anymore, but because I've committed to this and I've been doing it since January 1st. So as soon as we had the results over the festive period, I started doing this blog, and it's taken over my life, obviously in the evenings and stuff. And my girlfriend's not a fan, but at the same time, we've come so close now. I'm not going to stop doing it now. So, yep, we're going to have all of that. And then one thing that is massive that people really, really enjoy is the 2024 pointers. So what that is the fact that 9 out of 10 people are getting left behind because they want to be on a horse for next year, but they don't know where the horse might go, or they don't even think about it because you get so caught up in the Cheltenham Festival. The fact that this blog will be out on Sunday or Monday, you might be reading this and you might think, do you know what? I'm actually going to read this in depth because I've got the time, because we're not at Cheltenham races yet. So you'll read it through and you're like, do you know what? That horse actually, that might go to the Arkle. And you read through and you're like, okay, right. And all the markets will start coming up, probably the end of this week coming. On all bookmakers, and it'll be to win at this festival and to win at next year's festival. And like, there's people now that have got 16 to 1 on Constitution Hill to win the Supreme last year and the Champion Hurdle this year. I mean, the horse is 1 to 4. Like, those sort of bets are brilliant, and some of them are very predictable and some of them aren't. But I've put the pointer of where my best thought is and what the stats are that point towards where these horses might go. And that is a massive piece of information for me, because it just helps out. If a person is so confident on winning a race this year, then why not use a couple of pounds and try and double it down for next year? There's no better feeling. Like, I remember I had, obviously this didn't work out, but I had Shishkin to win the Arkle and then to win the Champion Chase at 33 to 1. So I'd already had that bet, and then I could just sit on it all year round. And obviously he was sent off, what, even money, or 5 to 6 on, or something like that. But I already had that bet, so I wasn't worried about doing like loads of other bets. So it's just keeping, like, the bookmakers are very stingy nowadays, so it's not getting any easier for you. But it's just something for you to bear in mind, and always to have an eye on something else. And again, things like free bets are perfect for that sort of situation. And then finally, we've got the 2023 verdict. So that's my opinion, a short summary of all of the horses that I've mentioned, as in who I think's most likely to win, what the opportunities are, who could play a part, how the race might lay up, like as in pace analysis, who's going to go off in front, and how I see the race going. And then obviously my 2023 Antepost, so the horses that I've got, that I've placed in the last 12 months. And then my 2023 selection. So it could be one horse, could be two horses, but that will be on there as well. So really, all in all, it's going to be everything that I believe you need in order to find winners at the Cheltenham Festival. And it's broken down into a very basic way, so that it means that if someone knew nothing about racing, like say if I went and gave this to like one of my parents and said, oh, I want to bet on the Gold Cup, and I sent the link to them and said, okay, have a look here. It means that you're not just looking through the Daily Mail and going, okay, right, one line it says Galopin Des Champs was really good at the Dublin Race Festival. Next line it says Brave Man's Game was really good in the King George. Next line says, and then at the bottom it says verdict, Galopin Des Champs may be too good for these. And you're like, great, why is he too good? And it's just me just trying to help. But I've also put, obviously, I'd like to think that I've put enough content that people who know everything about racing, that it's not going to tell, it may not tell them anything they don't know, but it's just put it all in one place. So it's just obviously, it's my own personal views, my own personal experiences that have helped to put this together. A lot of people have asked, like, what's the difference going to be? Like, are you going to have to pay for it this year? And the answer is no. There's a lot of people that I know, like I said, don't get me wrong, it has been like a second job, and I'd love to be like rewarded and paid for doing it, but that's not why I set this up. I set this up because I wanted to help people, and I wanted people to be able to. The best thing about betting, the best thing about Cheltenham betting specifically, is the fact that there could be you with 3 or 4 mates, and you can all have the same selection, like as in you can all decide on the same thing, or one person could convince the other 3 mates, and you all put your money on the same thing. You all cheer that, and you all get free money together. And how much does that cost you to share your information with your friend or your parent or your family or anyone you've known, and you've helped them out, whether it's a 10 to 1 winner or an even money winner? You've all won money together. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not costing me money by me sharing this information. And my aim is just to provide the content so that other people can look through and say, yeah, okay, I really like that. That's my idea. I want to go with that. And that's what it's here for. And the biggest aim is the fact that I know that certain people will love the Cheltenham Festival, but they've got too busy lives because they've got family, kids, anything. They can't afford to take the time off work. but at the same time, they don't want to be sat at their desk just throwing money at horses that they don't have the time to look at. Whereas I'm hoping this gives people the best opportunity to try and take some money from the bookmakers. Because at the end of the day, that's all we want. I've got 14,000 followers now. And if everyone's taking like £1, that's £14,000. I know it's completely unrealistic, but at the same time, that is just the goal. The goal is to try and take as much money from the bookmakers to give to everyone who needs it a lot more. So that's it. That's the basic consensus. The difference is this year, yes, I am going to put a link, probably a PayPal link. And the reason is for that is that if I was sat with my mate and I said, right, you've got to back this horse, it's 3-1, get your money, blah, blah, blah. Or if he gave it to me and he says it's 3-1, blah, 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 or 8-1, whatever the price is, and it wins, do you know what I turn around and say to my mate? Right, I'm going to the bar to get around. What do you want? And that's, if you want to buy me a pint, then that is absolutely perfect. That's spot on, and I really appreciate that. And that's if that's because you've followed for the last 12 months and really enjoyed the content, or you really enjoy the Cheltenham blog itself. Or if you get one of our Antepost winners, if something like an Impervious goes in at 28-1, you think, do you know what? He did not shut up about that horse, and he told me to back it, and it's won. Like, I'm going to buy that guy a beer. And that's the only reason the link's there. It's not so that people can put thousands of pounds in it. It's just, if you want to buy me a pint, then fill your boots. That's perfect. But no, the blog is not, it's not for charging. And then that way it means that if people don't have the money, if people don't want to buy a pint, if they don't want to do anything, that's perfectly fine. Because then all I want is for people to win money, or at least have the best opportunity to win money. So that is basically the Cheltenham blog. Have I got anything else that I want to cover? No, I think that's pretty much it. Nice, short and sweet, very short video for myself. Basically, I can't wait, but I will have a think and try and think of anything else that I could put up content-wise. But the chances are it's probably going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There'll be videos for all 4 of the days. There'll be my final selections in each of those videos. And also, obviously, if you're not following already, you may want to go over to @risk4rewards on Twitter to find the blog, because when the blog does come out on the Sunday, that'll be where it's produced. And I will have more details on where it will be coming out, what time it will be coming out, where you can find it, and how it all works a lot closer to the time. And for anyone who wants to look through the past results, like if you're interested, because obviously I've said about this blog, if you want to see how the old layouts worked and what races I had winners and stuff in, if you go to my @risk4rewards, you can click on the WordPress, and you can see all my past blogs and tips. Well, not tips, because obviously it's basically I just put up whatever I back. So things for like the ARC and other races. So but you can find all my content there. And if you'd like to like or subscribe below, and any content I could think of, that'll be going up before Thursday. And then if not, then I'll speak to you all Thursday. Thank you very much, and goodbye.